Is our hat pro-democracy? Probably not, right? If you're going to try to reach the Doc Rivers people, you know what I mean? Like that
Right.
we're talking about, the disengaged 20-something. If I was somebody that's thinking about running in 2028, which I'm not, that would be what I would be spending most of my time thinking about right now. Like, and not all the other stuff. Like, what is on the hat?
By every measure available to us, every way we ask our viewers who they want more of, the answer comes through loud and clear. It's our next guest. The Best People with Nicole Wallace is where you have found yourself, and the best person this week is Tim Miller. Tim Miller, thank you for being here. Did you
What's
know that?
up?
Did you
No,
even
I
know
did
that?
not know that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
nobody. The suits never tell me anything about
They
my
don't.
Q score.
I mean, this may be like this may be leaked classified information, but I know it to be true,
Okay.
corroborated.
Well, I love to hear that. I appreciate the viewers, and it's true. At least anecdotally, this is not math, but on the street or at Whole Foods or whatever, at the kids' basketball game, if somebody's like, "Hey, I love watching you," the next words are always with Nicole. Every time.
Oh,
It's never,
oh.
no offense to any of the others.
Let's dive in right there. I mean, I loved your description of the manosphere and the different layers of the Trump coalition.
Yeah.
Tell me right now. We're sort of, I think we're kind of maybe in the second inning of the Epstein story. So, like, for where we are right now, how would you define the Trump coalition?
Yeah, I mean, look, he has this core base of support that everybody always talks about because it's so visible, right? So in our face, they go to the rallies, they're trolls in our mentions, right? And so, and it's been the key to his political power, right? So there's
Yeah.
always like this. I feel like we're on. It's like, oh, is this going to break through at the base? Is this going to crack them? And I just am kind of the working view that nothing is ever going to crack them,
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
And that we're going to be decades from now, we're going to be in the old folks home together, Nicole, and there's going to be people long after Trump's passed, there'll be people with little down the hallway with little venerations to him, and like I just think that's just unfortunately like our reality. So like I don't even, it's whatever, it's important to hear them and know what's happening with them, but like that's not where the crack could be, right? And I think that there are two other kind of groups that we talk about. One is I do think that there is kind of an evolving, like mutated MAGA, right? That is younger, and that they listen to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson's podcast, and I think some of those folks have some doubts. I don't know. Did you watch any of the Mehdi Hassan thing where he was like Mehdi Hassan versus 20 far right conservatives? It's called Jubilee, and it's like fight porn. It's like argument porn. Anyway, and Mehdi goes on, and they found like these 20 kids who define themselves as far right conservatives.
You're saying you don't care about the Constitution, but actually you do because you quite like the Second Amendment. You just don't like the bits that you disagree with. Can I just be clear on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to amend it and include
Whenever
the
it's in
Second
your
Amendment.
favor.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so can Democrats do the same when they're in office?
No, absolutely not. Because
you don't
it's the
believe in
friend enemy.
democracy?
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
What do you believe in?
Autocracy.
You're a little bit more than a far right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am.
It was funny. A couple of times they said they didn't vote for Trump, like because they're like not part of the Trump base. Like they're spinning off into a whole new world that's even scarier, and we can maybe talk about that. That's a pretty small group. The main group that I think is important to think about in this whole Epstein case is like the folks that listen to Joe Rogan, as you mentioned, these sort of manosphere guys who aren't ideological. Many of them voted for Democrats.
Yeah.
They're not Christians. They're not weekly churchgoers in any meaningful sense, right? Like they got attracted to Trump because he was like a finger in the eye to the establishment. They liked the anti-woke stuff, right? Like those guys. And they were very important to him because for every one of us, you and me, he lost, Nicole. Like he picked up one of them, right? Like
Right.
that kind of offset his losses with these college educated suburban types. And so they're important. And here's the thing about them. A lot of liberals want to like look at them and say they're bad, wag their finger at them and stuff. But if you listen to their interviews, like if you listen to Rogan with that guy, I'm going to butcher his name, the guy from Texas,
Yeah.
James Tallarico, right? If you listen to that, Rogan, you can tell, right? And this Theo Vaughn lately talking about Gaza. These guys don't want to be evil. they're
Yeah.
not Stephen
Yeah.
Miller, right? Like
Right.
they might say things inappropriately, and they might, do things that you would tell your teenage son that you wish they wouldn't do, right? Like, they're not perfect men, but like they don't want to be evil. They're not on board with the just like randomly killing the poorest children in the world and like
Yeah.
like masked men grabbing people on off the streets. And they also really believe that something weird happened with Jeffrey Epstein and that people should get to the bottom of it, and that
Right.
it's bad that people are covering it up. And so I think that Trump is very vulnerable with like that part of, whether you called it his base or his coalition, probably better, his coalition. And like you're really seeing the cracks develop on that over the past couple weeks.
Well, I agree with you, and I think I've started listening to. I mean, I've covered Joe Rogan initially reluctantly, now more with wonder, and mostly because of his power in the culture and in the space. And he seems to have landed in a place where he's flirting with the reality that cruelty isn't manly. And he's one of the earliest defectors on rounding up people at work. It's actually one of the lowest polled deportations that Trump does. I think over 80% of Americans in a Pew poll said they didn't want people deported who have a job. It's even higher if they're married to someone or they have American-born kids. I think it's like 85 and 90%. But people with jobs were not supposed to be in the minds of some of the coalition. Again, not MAGA. I think MAGA was for throwing everybody out. We're not supposed to be targeted. They were supposed to go for the worst of worst. And I wonder what your thoughts are about the arbiters of Trump over Harris, who are now on board and culpable, responsible for putting together a winning coalition for Donald Trump that is engaged in some of the most cruel and sadistic practices, especially when it comes to deportations.
Yeah. And it's depressing, right? Because it's like, was easy for all of us to see that it was going to be their plan. They had it on the placards, and Stephen Miller, and it was part of the plan last time they did the child separations. We already did all this once before. They did the Muslim ban. And so it's like, they were I don't even know sometimes that we give too much credit to like the strategists. Like I don't even really know if it was strategy. It was this kind of gut instinct. It was just like it was this combination of Stephen Miller was able to animate that nativist base, which is real, and there are a lot of people, and they kind of glommed onto it these other guys who were attracted to this for various other things, whether it was like macho signaling or that they didn't like that they felt like white men were being pushed aside because of and there are a million things you could say. And so it's annoying that so quickly so many of them are like, whoa, we didn't sign up for this, when in fact they did sign up for this. But I think that we are where we are, and politically speaking, I think it's important for the Democrats to recognize that a lot of these guys were voting for them 10 years ago. Some of them are too young to vote, and a lot of them don't. It's not human nature. It is aberrant that Stephen Miller self-identifies as a bad person. I really think he does. I think Stephen Miller likes being the villain. I really do.
Right. It's his brand.
Yeah, that's not normal. A lot of people don't like that, and I think it'd be a huge mistake to just be like, "Oh, screw you guys! You signed up for this. You knew it. Now you're trying to save face." I think that they might have gotten snowed, and that they thought and that they really don't see themselves as bad people, and that the worse Trump is, the more they're like, I don't know. And maybe that doesn't mean they're ever Democrats. Maybe it just means that they're like, I'm going to go back to focusing on Epstein and MMA and other weird
and the
conspiracies.
Pyramids. They're into the pyramids.
The pyramids, who built the pyramids? Why can't we build the pyramids anymore? That's great. Talk about the pyramids. Hang out. That's great. That's a safe place for you.
It's amazing. I mean, let's put a pin in the Democrats for a second, because
Sure.
I feel like you understand this piece of the coalition, and I feel like this is if you start reverse engineering how the pro-democracy movement starts winning elections in decisive ways, so that we're not teetering on the edge of autocracy and democracy every 2 to 4 years. It feels like engaging the people who wanted the ambient noise in my house. Welcome to the Wallace house.
Should we bring along?
Well, I think
Ward?
that's why she's pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll bring her up for a guest appearance in a minute. But I wonder how you would reverse engineer the piece of it that attracted them, because it was anti-elitism. It was feeling parented during COVID, right? I mean, there were people
Yeah.
that didn't want to be told what to take in terms of
Yes.
a vaccine. They didn't want to be told to wear a mask. They didn't want to be told to stay at home. There's a whole unprocessed piece of rage and grief that, over COVID, that neither party has dealt with. And then there's sort of the rejection of political correctness, which is so old and tired. I didn't realize how much of it was still in the system. But if you reverse engineer that, who do you see on the Democratic side that doesn't have those problems politically?
I kind of feel like it has to be somebody that just wasn't involved in all those fights, right? And so it's not as if they were maybe on the side of the bros in the fights, but they just were on the sidelines altogether. I just think
Hmm.
of this, Nicole. I mean, as weird as this moment is, like there's some things that have just been true for a while in our politics, and I think that maybe we in the pro-democracy movement and the Democratic Party certainly like just didn't embrace the lessons enough. But like you go back, and with the exception of W, basically, who you worked for, you go back to Clinton 92. What was Clinton's appeal? He was like totally outside of the
Hmm.
Democratic establishment world. He's this governor
Hmm.
from Arkansas. Okay.
Hmm.
Obama, like might seem like an establishment guy now, but he comes up, he's this weird name. He was against the Iraq war, and he was
Hmm.
outside. He was going against Clinton,
Yeah.
and then Trump, obviously, right? And then kind of Biden wins sort of by accident this weird way. And then Trump wins again. What were people telling us this whole time? Sarah Longwaller says about the focus groups, what do people say always? It's like, I don't want a typical politician. I don't want the establishment. I think that they, don't have my best interest in heart. Some of that's not fair, and we can go win that fight. We can go fight that fight. But like, reality is just what it is. And I think that American people have been telling us over and over again that they don't want the same old. They want somebody that's gonna shake
Yeah.
things up. And I
Yeah.
think by providing Clinton and then Biden's vice president, it just felt very status quo, and people didn't want status quo. And so I kind of feel like, I don't know. I'm just picking a name out of the hat, but like Wes Moore, as the governor of
Yeah.
Maryland, is outside of that. Like he was
Yeah.
governor a little bit during that time. He's not in those fights. He's kind of a guy's guy. He can talk about how he didn't think that some of this stuff was silly and some of it wasn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
or maybe somebody else. I don't. I just like you
Yeah.
leave somebody out if you start naming names, but I just think like a fresh person that can come in and say, "Look, I have some contriques about how the Democrats were doing things. I mean, I really don't like Trump, and I think that look, he sold you a bill of goods, and he
Right.
said he was outsider, and then what did he do? He protected billionaire pedophiles and gave a tax cut to the rich, right? Like that's an easy talking point,
Right.
So to me, it's like I look at the Bill Clinton and Obama models, and as like both of those people came out of basically nowhere. I mean, Obama was a senator for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, and
Clinton was a
they
governor of a small
conquered.
state.
And to your point, they conquered something, right? So Obama conquers the Clinton machine. And so you're not telling a story of how you're strong, you've shown it.
Right.
And Trump is not, because I mean, I still think that the old thing about politics, that people want someone who is a strong leader and understands their problems. And in a way that everyone has been blind to, they see Trump that way. They
Yes.
see his base sees the bullying as strength, and they see that they perceive the media and elites to hate him, and they align themselves with him. And that's why the gold toilets and the supermodel wife and the jet have never hurt him politically, because they see him as sort of rating high on those two axes of political measure. Do you think those measures still hold?
I do. Yeah. And I think that and it's also, and again, it's weird. I hate to use I feel like vibes is such an used word these days, but like, he gave off the vibe of to them of like signaling that he cared about them with the stupid stunts, the stuff that we look at
Yeah.
and like, come on, it's like he's at McDonald's and like
Right.
whatever, but like he's at the round and he's and he says, I'm going after those guys, and and even though he didn't do any of it, like the feeling was that he was more on the side of the regular guy, and it's hard to you can say you are if you're a Democrat, right? But like and you can be earnest, right? I can think of a lot of really earnest Democrats who are in
Yeah.
Washington who care about policy, who care about regular people. But if they go out and they say, I want to raise the minimum wage and I care about, here's a white paper for how to help people, but they give off an energy of, well, no, you're just kind of a typical politician, right? And that's silly. And like, should that be how our politics works? Probably not, but it is. And so I just think that's the challenge, right? How do you like recapture that feeling of another way of saying I care about you is by saying like I'm going to fight the things that are preventing you from living the kind of life that you wish, right? Like I'm gonna be on your side, right, mate? I'm gonna be on your side,
Hmm.
and you can't be on Washington's side and on their side, right? And like that has like been this challenge, and at some point it's part of it. It's because Trump's been such an attack on Washington. It's like natural and right to want to defend it, right? To say, wait a minute, the FBI is not corrupt. Our democratic system isn't corrupt, right?
Hmm.
Like our, whatever. Like, and so you find yourself always defending these things that people don't feel are serving them. It's tougher than it sounds like, but I just think that's like the big challenge for reaching these people is just credibly feeling like you're on their side against, whatever are the forces that have been favoring people that have access or people that are well off.
I feel like you have articulated why not taking our eye off the human beings impacted by the deportations matters. You say it's being done in our name as Americans, not regardless of who we voted for, it is being done in our name. And you could lay that over USAID, right? Our name, the United States of America, was on all those bags of food and meals ready to eat and the rice and the peanut paste. But on deportations specifically, if you play this forward, what is the message that you take to the country in 4 years about how to clear our name?
Yeah. Um, It's another tough one, right? Because you have to balance these things at the same time, which is people were upset about the number of people coming to the country and how haphazard it was. And you could see it in cities. I mean, I always say, like, whenever a Democrat tries to dismiss it to me, and I'm like as liberal on immigration as I can get. I mean, I'm just totally like a Statue of Liberty. Give us your tired, your poor person. Like, that's
Me
was even
too.
when I was a Republican, that was always my view. That was a lot of
Me
Republicans'
too.
views back then.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think that was George Bush's view. I
Yeah,
think in his heart he
exactly. And
believed in
right.
amnesty. Yeah.
But like, my family's in Denver, and you can see it in Denver, like on the street. Like there were so many Venezuelan asylees, asking to wash windows and stuff. Right? Like it was me, and you can see it in schools, right? If you go to public schools in certain neighborhoods, you're like, oh, the number of young people who don't speak English coming to the schools was becoming a burden, right? So like there were like some of that was real, right? So the Democrats need to simultaneously say, okay, we learned our lesson. This is real. We want to have, we're going to deal with this. But also, we need to take back what is America about America and what is our what
Mhm.
is and our shared humanity, and we can't become and nobody wants us to become a immigration police state. Well, a few people do, and Stephen Miller does, but like that now circling back to these bros, I do think that resonates with a broad part of the country, right? Like we want to have laws, we want to have rules, but we don't want to be a police state where masked men are grabbing people off the street like this is China or Stalin's Russia. Like that's not what people want. And I think also, I was talking to Chris Murphy about this morning. Also, when it comes to USAID stuff, yeah, it's not that popular of an issue, but on a basic level, it's like, can we just do a little bit with our blessings as a country to make sure that the most vulnerable 3-year-olds in the world don't starve? Like, can we just offer a little bit like this last budget that we cut 100 million from UNICEF and put in 300 million to to secure Mar-a-Lago? It's like, can we balance that out? Can we spend as much money on security for our elites in this country as we do making sure that the poorest kids in the world don't starve? And can we make sure that people fleeing oppression and who want to come here and who do it the right way can get here and not be afraid that they're going to be nabbed out of their workplace by some guy in a mask and put in the back of a van and sent to the Everglades to be tormented by Ron DeSantis? I I think that you can kind of do this in a patriotic kind of American way. Like you know, people got really sick of "We Are Better Than This" because it kind of has demonstrated maybe we're not better than this, but like we aspire to be, like,
Yeah.
and we can be, and people should have the ability to live free, and we don't. There's almost like a "don't tread on me" element to this, and I don't know. All of that is a little bit of a ramble, but like there's something in all of that that I think would resonate with people beyond the beyond the folks who voted for Kamala. There are other folks that do still believe that. And I think that's honestly going to be the big fight because I think no matter what happens next with the Republicans, they're going to be nationalist, closed borders. Like that's where the party's moving, blood and soil, USA.
Yeah.
And so you got to fight that with a different vision of what the American flag is, right? Something that's a little bit more, um, about everybody's rights, to live free without fear of the masked men.
It's sort of the old, like, New Hampshire Republican strain, right? In the
Yeah.
primary to win there, it's like a different kind of Republican than you have to appeal to in Iowa, right? And
Yeah.
it's sort of that, which isn't really anywhere in the Republican Party anymore. I mean, they want to leave measles unchecked. They want to mix the soda themselves, and people, like I'm for a healthier food supply, but you don't have to take a measles shot, and you are going to prescribe what's in all the food. I mean, there's no intellectual consistency, and I wonder what piece of that is on us as people with platforms.
Yeah, I mean, some of it. And I think our challenge something I think about a lot as somebody with the platform is like, okay, how do you get to, how can you either say something in a way or go into a space where you can reach people that are, that would want to hear that message, that are open to hearing that message, right? It's not about going to argue on some MAGA platform with some guy, performative arguing. It's not that. It's about how do you reach people that are open to hearing that message, that just either weren't hearing it or weren't hearing it the right way, or it didn't break through to them, because like that is the big challenge that we face, right? Like, is that our polarization now has gotten based around like education level and engagement level, right? And so it's like, okay, well, we can scream it till we're blue in the face to the people that are already kind of in our bubble. How do you and I think the challenge is less about breaking into the other bubble. Like I said, I think that they've got a lock on it, but it's getting to people that are less engaged. I don't know, and that's what I think about what you're doing now. Like I think about like I've been listening to some of your other ones, and like the Doc Rivers one lands with me because it's like that conversation was interesting because it's like, who is he talking to? Like he's coaching, like the NBA players are so young now because like they're only in college for a year. Like these really, really young guys, like way closer to your son's age than to mine. You know what I mean? Like the guys that are coaching, the Doc Rivers are coaching, right? And he was talking about how they checked out, but like that's a group. It's mostly black guys. Like that's a group that we should be able to resonate with all this. Like they don't want a police state. Like they don't want, like they don't care, they're not caught up in all the MAGA, signaling, but they didn't feel engaged by whatever the pro-democracy movement was offering. Right. And I think that like thinking about reaching those groups feel much more attainable than like thinking about how to reach whoever's listening to Charlie Kirk or whatever,
Yeah. And I even think about, pro-democracy suggests that the other side is anti. And if you haven't successfully convinced enough people, you're just shouting into the void. I even grapple with my descriptors. Like, what are we, right? We're ex-Republicans who vote for Democrats because the Republicans have been corrupted and it's under the umbrella of pro-democracy. But is that what we should be calling ourselves?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, maybe not. And in part because also like Back in the Corners, this is the other thing I just have Chris Murphy on the mind because I think he's been so good on all this. And
Me too.
I was just talking to him, and it's like we didn't really come up with an answer to this, but he was talking about how the Democrats have to fight fire with fire more, which is something I agree with, right? Which means at times, maybe not being as respectful to the traditional norms. I feel like just the redistricting is one example. It's supposed to happen every 10 years, but if the Republicans do it, then the Democrats should do it too. Okay, I agree with that. Like the Democrats do need to be more aggressive. The threat is very real. On the other hand, if you're calling yourself the pro-democracy movement and then simultaneously you're arguing, well, we might need to cut a few corners here to combat it, then are you then are you making yourself seem like a hypocrite, right? I think that's a really tough question. I don't know, and I think that that kind of whoever emerges as and I think that there's no rush to find someone to emerge to lead the kind of opposition to Trump. I might need to kind of define the coalition in a way that's a little bit different. I mean, say what you want about Trump, he's good at the hat. I keep defining the Make America Great Again, America First. Like it's graspable in a way that pro-democracy kind of isn't. And my biggest worry going into the election, I always come back to this. I was interviewing James Carville like 3 weeks out, and the documentary was coming out about him, and they went back to the old whiteboard about what the 3 things were for Bill Clinton: change versus more of the same, et cetera. It's the economy, stupid. And I was like, what's Kamala's three things? And I don't think anybody knew, right? Like, everybody could have come up with different stuff. Nothing against Kamala. I thought she ran a pretty good campaign in a tough environment. But I do think that's a problem, right? Like, is our hat pro-democracy? Probably not, right? If you're going to try to reach the Doc Rivers people, you know what I mean? Like that
Right.
we're talking about, the disengaged 20-something. If I was somebody that was thinking about running in 2028, which I'm not, that would be what I would be spending most of my time thinking about right now. Like, and not all the other stuff. Like, what is on the hat? Like,
What's
what
on the
is
hat?
what is on the chalkboard? You know, like what is something that's graspable that cobbles this whole thing together?
What is your pre-political Tim Miller story? What's the Tim Miller story? The baby Tim Miller story.
There kind of isn't a pre-political Tim Miller. I just loved it from the start, in ways that probably ended up getting me into trouble as I got into in the book. But like I remember, so we moved to Denver when I was in 5th grade. So it would have been one of the Clinton elections, Clinton Bush, and I bet my grandmother, my parents weren't really into politics, but my dad's mother really was, and she was a big Republican. And she was like, she loved George H.W. Bush. And I was like, I don't know. I had the insight of a 5th grader who doesn't know anything, and I was just like, I don't know. The other guy with the saxophone looks cooler. And I
Saxophone,
think
yeah.
I think he's going to win, actually. And so we bet $1. We moved to Denver during the election. And then when Clinton won, she sent me my dollar. I remember, like, I had it in my room. And I don't know. There's something about the competition of it. I always liked sports, but I was a late bloomer, so I was never good at sports as a kid, and so it kind of got like it scratched my competition itch. But and I started volunteering for Bill Owens when I was like 15 and a half and had a learner's permit and looked 12. Like I literally didn't grow facial hair until I was 19. I grew in college. It's the weirdest thing about me. Like if I'll meet somebody from middle school that I haven't seen in years, they'll be like, "You're tall," is their response to me. Because like in 8th grade, I was like 5'4". Like I grew. So anyway, when I was interning for Bill Owens back then, who was running for governor of Colorado, like people would ask me like, "Are you Bill's nephew? Like who's your dad?" Like, they refused. Like it was like ridiculous that this child was like working on the campaign. And so anyway, there really isn't a pre-political me. I was into that part of it from like middle school.
So when I started in politics, I applied for a job with a Democrat and a Republican in California. I just wanted to be in the arena. I just wanted to be in the game. Was it Republicans for you, or was it politics?
Yeah, it was politics, and it was Republicans for me. But kind of in a soft way. I mean, like, it's like so quaint, like the things that got me into being Republicans. Like, literally, the Dems in my life will like roll their eyes to see this, but like, I liked the idea that we were a shining city on a hill and people wanted to come here in America. Like that was what drew me to the Republican stuff. Like I have a distinct remember of being in high school and being so mad at Clinton over Elian Gonzalez, and just being like, that poor boy, like wanted to come. And I kind of like, to be honest, I tell the story. I need to go back and read the details because I kind of don't remember all of the particulars of it. But it's like, but to me, it was like a morality story, kind of like the El Salvador thing. It was like this boy was fleeing communism and wanted to come here, and like we sent jackbooted thugs in to get him. Like no, like wrong, like with weapons. No, like that's not America.
Sent him back to Cuba, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's not America. So it was that. All that said, though, my neighbor was friends with Bill Owens, which is how I got that job. I was always a moderate Republican from the start. I mean, like literally in that first campaign in 2000, I've told John Kasich this when I see him at the MSNBC Green Room. And I was like, I was for Kasich, I was for McCain, and so like, had things been different, right? Like had my neighbor been, a consultant for some conservative Democrat, which there were at that time in Colorado, like quite a few, Ben Nighthorse Campbell or something. Maybe I would have gone that, you know what I mean? I would have just gone up that route, because it did quickly become about like, I like the politics, I like the campaigns, and I think that did end up getting me into trouble. But I just think that's very common in our era a little bit, which is so different now, obviously.
Well, but it's the oldest story, right? You're looking for your tribe, you're looking for community, you're looking for your people. And I think we both found that in Republican politics. And it's I think you write about heartbreak, which is what I felt when Trump took over the party. And I saw it literally fracture my friend group. I mean, Trump 1.0 had a ton of, normal Republicans in it. There were
Yeah.
normal Republicans that I knew at the Justice Department, lots of them, all of them interested in telling some members of the press how they were protecting, the rule of law in 1.0. In the White House, there were normal, formerly
Yeah,
normal. At the Pentagon, there were normal people. I mean, what's so, I think, difficult to articulate is how far from anyone normal the second administration is. There's no one that would have ever had a job and that's the point. So I'm not even insulting these
Yeah.
people, right? This is the point.
They wouldn't have
But
wanted a job.
they wouldn't have wanted a
Right.
job, right? But the idea of sort of belonging, I think, is what I wanted out of politics and what I got out of politics. I think what you create and I think what you build, and I think this is special about you, but also atmospheric at everyone at the Bulwark, is a new community. And I wonder if that was intentional, or if you feel that, or if you feel how powerful people's connection is to you.
Yeah, I do feel it. I mean, it's really true. Just really quick as an aside about the community thing, and something to be conscious of in our new communities that we're building is you kind of part of community and belonging is that like you want to belong so bad you project stuff onto people. Like way before Trump, my first disappointing moment of being like, I don't know, maybe this Republican community isn't right for me was I was kind of under the impression that everybody was faking it on gay marriage. I don't know what made me do this. I think it was part of my coming out process, but I literally went and polled the office. I just went to everybody in the McCain 2008 office in Iowa. So it was probably a little different headquarters, a little more liberal, but in Iowa. And I was like, are you for gay marriage? And it was 1 out of 20 or something like that. And in my head, I was kind of like, I assumed it was going to be 18 out of 20.
Right,
Like, so
right,
you project things onto people,
That you want,
that
yeah.
you want. So anyway, back to the now community. I do feel it and I appreciate it. And I think that like it's some of what was intentional initially because, I don't, and this is not like whatever, a great charity or whatever. Like one thing that I did just because I felt like I needed to do it was if somebody came to me that like worked at the RNC or somewhere and during that period between 2016 and 2020 and was like, I need out. Like I can't support this stuff anymore. Like I was running Underground Railroad out of that baby. Like we were hiring people, and I had Sarah Longwell who does a bunch of other stuff outside of the Bulwark. I had her hiring people for stuff and other friends, and and I felt that, and like I said to her, I was like, we need to do that. Like include people that are part of our initial group of expats, like in this, and out hear from people a lot of times, particularly young people that were like, I'm on campus and I don't really feel like I'm a Democrat yet, but like these MAGA Republicans are crazy. And, I'd always give them free subscriptions, right? Like, come and do it. And like, you come to the events, you can come. And so we did try to, create that initial group, but it's sort of like has ballooned so far beyond that. And I wish I could say that like I consciously tried to like cultivate a community with people, because we have a ton of people who are far left Democrats, and they kind of like it when I say something they don't like, because they're like, okay, good, this is normal. Actually, I can disagree with this guy that I listen to and not think he's a bad person, and vice versa. And then we have a ton of like center left Democrats who think that maybe the party's gone a little kooky in certain areas, but like are mostly, pro democracy, so to speak, liberal. And so, and when you go to our events, it is like you can just feel it on people, just like the relief when they talk to you. Like they're so excited to like meet other people and talk and hang out everywhere after, and new friends are meeting. And so it is palpable that it's more than just like a media outlet where like you go to see your favorite podcaster and then you go home, right? It's not that. Like it's very much a hangout, and maybe not everybody's aligned on everything politically, but there's this common thread, and that I think I built kind of organically. I don't know, maybe I did something, or Sarah did something that I don't, but it wasn't like we had a meeting about it. It did kind of develop.
Is your daughter aware of what you do, or does she sort of stay out
I
of
don't
it?
know. I need advice from you on this, on having a 13-year-old, because she's pretty checked out, I think, for a 7-year-old of a person like this, like unfamiliar. Like we don't really talk about it like around her. I don't really talk about it to her. I don't have, no offense, like cable on, right? Like I'm listening to stuff. Like I listen to the shows. Like I'll listen, like if I'm not on, I'll listen to what you guys do in my ears, and like I'll like kind of parent and listen and cook and listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not on, so she's not like getting ambient Trump talk, right? And so, when we took down the Kamala sign, she asked why. We told her. When the Trump toys thing happened, I did have a moment of weakness when he said kids shouldn't have more than 3 toys. I told her about that. I'm like, I'm going to indoctrinate you.
Kids only need $2.
$2. I'm going to indoctrinate you on that. So she asked, for folks who don't know, my daughter's Black, is adopted. My husband just told me before I came on here, she asked me about Black History Month today and why there's Black History Month, So like some of that, that stuff you just start to, absorb and take in, and so I'm gonna increasingly kind of have to talk to her about it. And it was really one of the sad things about this Trump win. There are a million of them, so this one's kind of stupid and selfish, but I was like, had he lost, she wouldn't have really had to know about it. Like she would have known about it in the way that it's history, like in the way that I know about George Wallace or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now, like she'll be 11 when it's over, God willing. And that, that's, so we're gonna have to deal with it. I don't know, how do you deal with it?
So when COVID started and I was anchoring from home, we turned off all the TVs and we kind of never turned them back on. And my son, by 13, you kind of go from never talking about it and thinking they don't know anything to they open their mouth, and even though you've told them nothing, you realize they know everything.
Right.
And I'll protect all of his prerogatives and privacy, but they're good at sifting through what's bullshit. And so I would say, at one level, don't worry. But at the other, I would, there's so much history, right, to teach a young kid. My son had all of the Who Was books, and, by the time you make it through all of the history, you can sort of put this I'd say you have time, but never lie to her would be my only advice.
That's good advice. That's good advice for parenting and podcasting.
I want to ask you if any of your interviews that you conducted changed you.
Oh man, changed me. Having a Black daughter, I grew up in Denver. Like I didn't know any Black people really, like meaningfully, like except that I played basketball. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't know any Black people. I grew up in suburban Denver, and went to college at there weren't that many Black people at my college, and then I worked in Republican politics. You know what I mean? It was just like I didn't have a ton of Black people in my life until recently. And so, like, when I am interviewing folks, whether it's Bakari Sellers or Eddie Glaude or Ta-Nehisi Coates, like, I'm always like trying to do kind of what we're doing now. It's just like talk politics, business, and at the end, I just like I kind of want to pick their brain about like parenting and what was it like for you as a kid, and how did you learn about racial discrimination, and like how did you process it, and I, so I think back to those interviews as ones that like will stand a post-Trump test of time with me, and like think about something Bakari said to me once. I asked him about like parenting advice for a young girl. He's got a bunch of kids, and he was like, I'm gonna get like choked up talking about it. He's like, I just talked to my daughter about how her lips are beautiful and perfect, and how her hair is beautiful and perfect, and how like she, you know what I mean? And like, I'd have to go back and like listen to get the exact quotes right, but just like that very basic fundamental stuff that is just like not something that like my parents had to think about.
It's the stuff that hits you as a person where you're not the interviewer. You've lost all control, and you realize that's the beauty of it. And for me, it's Esther Salas, who's job cost her son his life, the judge whose son was murdered. And I think about him every day. I have her son's Daniel's picture on my desk, and I think I don't always ask that, but I wanted to ask you that because I think you're that person for so many people. I mean, they feel like you're talking to them, and it always comes from a place of being open to being moved by other people. And so I love that.
I appreciate that. That challenges me though, to think about what kind of other guests I can have that would fulfill that need, because you do get into a rut, like you can get into a rut. like I'm your rut, so I don't know. Maybe you're gonna give me a break for a week and bring in more, and add Diaz's.
I mean, in my theory of the case though is that this show I pitched to Phil Griffin. He said, "Well, what would your show be?" I said, "It would be the conversation at the next table when you're on a blind date and you're shushing the guy because you want to listen to that table. Like that's the show." And you help us realize that.
That's a good show. That's right.
Similar. You're not just the best guest. You're one of the best people. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate you so much. We'll be seeing you soon.
I know. We'll keep it going. Thank you, my friend.
Bye.